Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Today we're taking a look at a game between Show and Scut. We're looking at a Terran strategy specifically today, so let's go right into Show Vision. Something I want to note that you guys might realize now is that there are some advertisements on our videos. And I know for you guys, I know it was the case for myself when I first really started delving into the YouTube scenery basically. It can be a little frustrating, it can be a little annoying when you just really want to watch a video and you have to watch his advertising first, but something I really want you guys to take note of and realize is that this means that, you know, we're getting paid for the work that we're doing now, and because of that, we can produce work much more often at much higher quality, and this also allows us to expand as well. And on that note, I want you guys to take a look at our website. It's still in the beta, we're still doing a lot of work to it, it needs to be filled up with tons of content, but it's going to be really great once it gets started. Go take a look at forcestrategygaming.com. That's going to be our new website. It's going to host all of our material. All of our YouTube videos can be found there, so you can watch them there as well as here on YouTube. But let's get right into the strategy today with the administrative stuff behind us. So we're looking at a Terran strategy today, and I had a lot of requests. People were asking for a build to deal with the Spieling Muta build. I know a lot of Terran players have been having a real hard time against mutalisks. So we're going to take a look at different scenarios and how you should be going about building and what you should be going about building more properly in order to deal with it, and types of harassment you can do to try to counteract the fact that mutalisks are so mobile and they're able to run inside your base, pick things off, and then run away. And we're going to take a look at how you can properly deal with that. So starting things off here, we're going to be looking at very standard 10 supply depot, 12 barracks here at the front, and following that up with a 13 refinery. Then it's 16 command, or 16 supply at this command center. There we go. Those are the words I was looking for. We're going to be seeing this turning into an orbital command at 16. So very standard stuff. Clearly blocking off against Zerg, an absolute necessity. This is going to help protect you from things like early Zerglings. It'll also help if there's any sort of Banelings on the board and you need to reinforce a front wall. You need a front wall to begin with to have one to reinforce. You can see here coming out with our Marine initially. Also going to be following that up with a second Marine. Now after we're done building this supply depot here, we're going to be coming out with our refinery. So what we're looking at going for today is a barracks and factory heavy build. We are going to be getting a starport as well, but that's going to come later down the road. We're going to concentrate first on basically doing some Hellion harass with that Infernal Pre-igniter. Very popular because it's a very effective opener as Terran. Now, a lot of Zerg players have come to know how to deal with it, you know, trying to get spine crawlers and roaches. But the thing to realize is even with those on the board, even if your opponent has spine crawlers and they have roaches on the board, you can still, you know, your Hellions are very fast. You can still maneuver them around and still do a lot of damage on top of getting any necessary scouting information. So that is something that I suggest you doing. It's definitely a really good tactic and really wise of you to utilize those Hellions to the best of their ability. So we're going to be getting a tech lab on this barracks. We started doing that at 21 supply. This factory came down at 18 supply. So once that factory was done building, we did that little swap, and we're going to be coming out with some Hellions, and then also going to be researching that Infernal Pre-igniter very, very shortly. Should be coming any moment there, and there we go. So the Infernal Pre-igniter is going to be coming now. So at this point, you know, just building up some Hellions. Going to be getting another tech lab here on the barracks as well. We are actually going to be coming out with some Marauders, and the purpose in doing so is because, like I said, people dealing with this Hellion harass, they typically, what you see is someone going for some roaches, and if they have roaches, Marauders are going to be the proper response to that. So you can see here Zerglings trying to pick off at this back wall. Definitely want to take them out. Really, if you micro properly, they should never be able to catch this Hellion, not until the point that they get that speedling upgrade, that metabolic boost upgrade. So until that point, you can be very devastating with this Hellion. So yes, the Infernal Pre-igniter, that's going to be coming up very shortly, and once it does, we're going to be able to do massive damage to his drones as well as his Zerglings. And again, even with that speed upgrade, with the Infernal Pre-igniter, if you can position your Hellions properly, you can still do massive damage to them. Basically, you want to catch them at a point where you're going to line them up. So you can see coming out here with this Marauder in anticipation of roaches. Obviously, if he's just getting Zerglings, the Marauder does little to nothing for us, but this is just kind of a preparation. Basically, just in case it does happen. You can see coming down here with this command center as well. Also going to be going to look for a quick expansion. The reason we're able to do this is because we're under the idea that we're going to be doing a lot of damage to him here, and as such, expanding is going to help us add on to that damage that we're doing. So trying to poke in there, you can see the spine crawler, you can see the queen, but we still want to try to do what we can for damage. I mean, you can try to sneak around the queen, get in here, do some damage to the drones. He is going to be pulling back his Hellions at this point, but it's not a bad idea to at least check to see what's going on, because we do want to see what he has for units. We do want to see what he intends on doing. Obviously, we know at this point he has gone for this quick expansion, but that is very standard from Zerg players. We can see here coming down with this second barracks as well right now. A little supply block there, obviously something you want to avoid. Second barracks, third barracks, and an armory. Now, this is our transition, starting off with these Hellions trying to do some damage. Obviously, you saw that it didn't go quite as well as we would have liked, but you do have that option of moving in at a later point, and I suggest utilizing that. The other thing you can do here is grabbing these Xel'Naga towers. If he does push out with some speedlings, you can kind of try to intercept them with those Hellions, especially with that Pre-igniter. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage to them. Changing this command center into an Orbital Command now as well. Basically, as soon as that command center is done building, you want to do that. So here are our additional 2 barracks. Like I said, we're going to be going for a barracks into factory heavy build. The purpose for this armory, of course, is to get Thors, because we know that Mutalisks are likely to be coming. All we've seen thus far are speedlings. We've seen no roaches. That means, as far as we're aware, he hasn't really spent much Vespene gas, and you can see even more speedlings here on the board right now. Now, with that said, if he's saving up his Vespene gas, a likely transition is into Mutalisks. That's something you need to expect. I would suggest scanning at some point as well. You really want to try to get a good, clear idea of what he's going for. There's really no reason to deny yourself that information. So you can see here, still taking advantage, still actually making sure that we use these Hellions. We saw that he was moving down with those Zerglings, and we saw that he moved down into this area, and we did move down and saw that he was trying to get rid of these destructible rocks and trying to make it so that they're worth their cost, basically. Try to take out as many units as you can. You can see all of these Hellions here have gotten some kills. So now moving down into expansion, this is where, at this point we do have these Thors. We're going to be able to deal, as long as we place our units properly, we're going to be able to deal with those Mutalisks. Now, we're going to be getting an engineering bay as well, because we do want to get some turrets up eventually. You can see that engineering bay coming right now. So a big problem with Thors against Mutalisks is that a lot of Zerg players have learned how to do that magic boxing ability. Essentially what that is spreading out your Mutalisks so that you don't have to take a lot of Thor damage, splash damage from the Thors. Now, what you can do to counteract that is going to be coupling your Thors with some Marines. Marines are very strong against Mutalisks, especially once you start to get Marines in large numbers and you have things like Stim Pack and Combat Shield. You can see we've got that Combat Shield coming right now. And at this point, I believe, we do have Stim Pack research at this point as well. So you can see these 2 reactors here. We put those on our 2 additional barracks that came down at 43 supply, because we're going to want to pump out a lot of Marines. Now, of course, the big threat is going to be Banelings, and we'll show you how to deal with that right after this. So you can see him moving in with these Mutalisks. As long as we spread out our Thors, you don't want them on top of each other. You spread them out so that the Mutalisks have a tough decision. They could go to one Thor and try to focus him down, but then the other Thor is going to be able to take care of him. And then, of course, we could move these Marines up as well. So you can see now that we have this engineering bay, we're going to be dropping turrets. Now, the reason we're dropping turrets over here instead of our main is that by the time he's got a decent amount of Mutalisks out on the board, as long as you've been saturating your mineral line and as long as you've been using your mules, your main should be almost mined out. I mean, it's not completely mined out. You can see we've got some pretty full patches over here, but a good half of it's almost gone right now, and that's going to be the case by the time he's got a decent force of Mutalisks. So your main goal is going to be to defend your expansion, getting some turrets down at your expansion. And you can see the placement of this one here. It's because it's difficult for our units to get in this area, and this is the most vulnerable spot. So that's why this turret is here. Right here, it's going to be much easier for our Thors and our Marines to defend against. So at this point, just kind of spreading out our units, you can see we've got 1 Thor in our main base and 1 Thor at our expansion. Wherever he hits, we'll rally, we'll reinforce with units. But we do want to spread them out so that we have something in defense of our main base. So you can see here, he was able to break through those back destructible rocks. This is a reason it's a good idea to put a supply depot back there. If you put a supply depot back there, you are going to see if anything's coming. You can see that he did a 2-pronged attack, hitting our main mineral line with Zerglings and then moving into our expansion with these Mutalisks. So you do want to make sure if you see that happening, if you catch it in time, that you just pull all of your SCVs away. You don't want them to take that splash damage from those Mutalisks. And this is what we're doing here. We actually are counteracting by doing a Marine drop into his main, trying to do as much damage as possible, try to distract him by having him force his Mutalisks up into this position, and then counteracting with an attack ourselves. So we're following up his 2-pronged attack with a 2-pronged attack ourselves. Essentially, once we defend against a push like that, once we defend against a push where he hits us from 2 different positions, you should go ahead and try to push out and even try to do the same thing if possible. We had that starport up and we were able to get a medevac out, and just those small little drops can be very effective for the reason that you saw there. So this is what I was talking about, making sure your Thors are spread out and then reinforcing them with these Marines, especially with Stimpak. You can see how much damage they do to these Mutalisks here, and it was just too much for him to handle, absolutely. Now the big threat, of course, is going to be Banelings, and what you want to do to deal with Banelings is kind of keep those Marauders that you've built in the front, and then when you see the Banelings coming, you want to Stimpak with your Marines and pull them behind the Marauders. And the idea is to use the Marauders as a meat shield against the Banelings and then snipe them down with the Marines behind the Marauders, and that's what you're going to want to do to deal with any Banelings. Also, if you have the ability, if you're able to focus fire down those Banelings, that's the best bet. You know, make sure you target fire them, you kill them before they get to you, and that's the best way to deal with it. But that coupled with this Marauder shield, you should do pretty well against them. And you can see this is even a full line here, and that's what we created. Now you can, obviously the Marines aren't right here at the moment because we did have to pull them back to deal with these Mutalisks, but that's how it would have looked. You see this full line, and you would have had your Marines right behind them. And so when the Banelings move in, the Banelings would be going into the Marauders, and the Marines would be able to safely snipe them from behind. So let's just take a look at this build order here one last time. We saw a supply depot at 10. And then at 12 supply, we saw that Barracks go down. 13 supplies when we got our first Refinery. 16 supply getting this Orbital Command. 18 supplies when that factory came out. We did that little swap with the tech labs there so we could start researching that Infernal Pre-igniter. Now we saw that when we tried to move in, we didn't do enough damage. Again, I suggest trying to just sneak in and see what you can do and then pull out. You should be able to do at least some damage. It's worthwhile. If you can't manage to do that, you know, grab some Xel'Naga towers. If you see these Zerglings pushing out, at that point you can use your Hellions to the most effectiveness. 20 supplies when we saw our second Refinery here. At 21 supply, getting that first tech lab, a second tech lab here on the Barracks, I'm sorry. 21 supply, getting that second tech lab on the Barracks here. 25 supplies when that Infernal Pre-igniter came down. 36 supply, we saw that expansion, and again, the reason we dropped that so early is because we intended on doing a decent amount of damage with those Hellions that we initially moved in. 43 supply, seeing that Armory, and then also 43 supply, seeing these additional 2 Barracks. So this is going to be a good build for you to deal with a Speedling into Mutalisk build. Starting off with that Hellion Harass, and then following it up with some Thors and Marines. The big threat is going to be Banelings, but I told you, you know, if you use things like bunkers, and if you try to make sure that you've got a Marauder wall with your Marines to stand behind, you can actually do really well against Banelings as long as you can micro them properly. So once again, this has been Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos, then please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Go check out our website at forcestrategygaming.com. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Keep watching and keep owning. You can see here our opponent is going for a counterattack. In fact, they were teching up to a fast roach drop. That was our Zerg opponent's ID here. And this actually does pretty well against what we have, because all we really have for basic units are these Marines. Now, you're going to want to make sure you pull the Banshees back. A big threat in something like this is if he managed to kill our Banshees, say he had an